Alright folks, so what we're going to do today is talk a little bit about making apple cider. And I used to make apple cider years ago, and I haven't done it for a really long time, and I'm talking like 15, maybe even 20 years. And just recently I was like, hey, you know what, I feel like making a batch of cider, some hard cider. And what I'm going to do though is I'm actually going to try to make apple pie hard cider. And there's going to be a couple different things that we're going to do to try to pull this off. I went out on the internet, looked around, and I'm not the first person to come up with this idea, so I'm not that original or clever. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use just some Wegmans. This is 100% fruit juice. It's made from concentrate. It does have some vitamin C additives to it to kill bacteria, but that should be fine. Typically when I used to make cider, I would actually use like pressed apple cider that you can get. And you have to be really careful when you buy that because a lot of times they'll put yeast inhibitors in there. And if you buy something with a yeast inhibitor, it's not going to ferment. I think there's some tricks that you can do, like boil it or freeze it or something like that to pull the inhibitors out, but I'm not going to go through that. So anyhow, for this, we are going to just use straight up fruit juice. You can use organic fruit juice, and you can actually make other kinds of ciders too. Like you can use grape juice or cranberry cocktail or just a variety of different things to go ahead and make that. Now, when I would make this stuff, I would add sugar to it, and the reason I would add sugar to it is because it boosts the alcohol content, right? That's the whole reason that you're making hard cider, not drinking regular cider. And for this one, I'm actually going to add dark brown sugar. Now, a lot of folks will say things like, "Hey, don't put sugar in your hard cider because it's so easy to ferment apple juice or apple cider anyway that it gets to be really, really dry. And the more sugar you put in there, the drier your end product's going to be." But we may have a plan for that when we get there. But for this, I'm going to use 1 gallon of juice, and I'll put 2 cups of this dark brown sugar in there. And I'm adding that dark brown sugar in there because I want to get it more like an apple pie taste than just a hard cider. And then I'm going to put, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 of these cinnamon sticks in there as well. And then for the yeast, I decided to go with this champagne yeast. And again, I went with the champagne yeast. You can use bread yeast and get it to ferment, but you're only going to end up with about 4 to 5% alcohol by volume. That's one thing that you can do is use a yeast that doesn't ferment fully or don't ferment as long, and then that way your end product won't be as dry. But you could use beer, brewer's yeast, you can use wine yeast, or you can use this champagne yeast, and they even have a cider yeast. I'm going with the champagne yeast because it tolerates higher alcohol volumes. And so I'm going to ferment this for 2 to 3 weeks, and I'm hoping to get somewhere around 15. I'd hope to get 20% alcohol by volume, but I think I'll probably finish that around 15. I can't find my hydrometer, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to measure alcohol content. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour this into a big old pot, put some cinnamon sticks in there, and I'm going to boil it up. And one of the reasons I want to boil that is I want to get the sugar fully dissolved into my juice here, but I also want the flavors to get a chance to kind of meld together before I put them into the glass jug for fermenting and then adding the yeast. So that's it. We're going to move on to the next step. All right, folks, here we are, and this is the inside of the cooking pot. And so first thing I'm going to do, I think I'm going to turn it on. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and pour this gallon of juice in. There we go. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 cups of the dark brown sugar. And you can see that stuff is clumpy. It's going to be tough to work with. But that's why I wanted to get this on the oven and get it boiling. I'm hoping that's going to help it dissolve and break up, and I'm sure it will. And then I want to make sure this has a really good cinnamony, if that's the word, taste to it, so that's 5. Let's go ahead and throw another one in there. Alright, so this isn't going to be overly glamorous, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to boil this, I don't know, 30 minutes, something like that, after I've seen all the sugar dissolve. And then after that, the next step is going to be let it cool down and then transferred into the glass container that we're going to use as our primary fermentation vessel. So anyhow, that's it, folks. See you in a little bit. Alright, folks. The recording studio is not really set up for this, so moving forward we're going to have to do this kind of stuff somewhere else if we continue to do videos like this. So anyhow, this is the stuff that I boiled up yesterday, earlier in this video, and the day got away from me while I was waiting for this to cool and I didn't get a chance to get it fermenting, so I'm going to do it today. One thing I did off camera that you guys did not see is I took this bottle and I added 1 cup of Earl Grey black tea and brewed with 2 tea bags. The reason I did that is I wanted to add some tannin to the mixture. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some yeast to this. We talked about it yesterday. We're going to use Red Star champagne yeast. And then we're going to put a little bit of this yeast energizer, yeast nutrient in that. So let's go ahead and get started. I don't have to use the whole pack of yeast. I think a half a packet would do. I think even a quarter of a pack would do. But this stuff is so cheap, and I don't know what I would do with it. I guess I could wrap it up and put it in the fridge and all that stuff. But I don't want to measure it, so that's almost all of it. And then this yeast nutrient calls for 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. Let's go ahead and we'll put that in there. All this stuff has been sterilized. You want to make sure that you keep your stuff reasonably clean while making this. Ooh, this stuff smells like apples. Let me put this on, and then I'm going to shake the shit out of it. I'm not sure if I should have done that or not, but it seems like it makes sense. Alright, there is the 1 gallon glass container that we're going to go ahead and ferment in. So, I have a sanitized funnel. We're going to go ahead and put that in there. And then carefully, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour the juice. Really smells like cinnamon. I mean, it really smells like cinnamon. There goes all my yeast. Let's see how I do this. Let's do it like that. Alright, what I'm going to do, and I probably should have put the yeast nutrient in this jug, but that's okay, we're learning as we go here. I'm just going to put 3 of them in there. And because I'm worried about that yeast, I'm just going to put the rest in. Hopefully I didn't screw that up, but we'll find out in 14 days or so. Alright, the next step. Put this cork in this bottle. And we did that. And then I'm going to take this airlock. I'm going to squeeze that in that cork. And we're in there. And then, let me see if I can get this on camera for you. This is a one-way airlock. And what you do Pour a little water in there. Drop this on. And what this allows, after I put the cap on, it allows the gases created by the yeast during the fermentation process to come out through this bottle, but it doesn't let other things in, like nasty wild yeast that's in the air. So there we have it. I'm just worried, and I hope I made enough. It looks like there's plenty at the bottom. Enough yeast in this thing. Looks like there's some in the neck. Let's see if we can... Well, it's just going to have to be. Alright, we'll check in later. Thanks, everybody.